Hi, Jack from the Broad Place here. I wanted to do a video for you on framing up 2026 as the incredible opportunity it is, and also making a commitment to letting go of that new year anxiety and pressure and the stress that we place on ourselves to apparently get everything right in the first week of January. And I know a lot of us started New Year on Monday the 5th, because the first was just, I don't think we were quite ready to let go of the energy of 2025. But there is something to be said about when the mind and the heart and the soul and the body all get really, really aligned together. But that has to come from a really coherent place. So I thought I would layer in a couple of things into the video that might be helpful to help you find not only some peace and some stability, but also a little map and some a framework on how you might look at the year ahead, because 2026 is going to be an incredible year. Like, it really is. There's so much that can take place for us on an individual level and also on an universal level, right? So we'll look at a few of the different planes as we walk through this. But let's start with numerology. Numerology, I usually deal with quite lightly, but I really love it when there is a natural alignment, and those in the numerology space are really excited about 2026 because 2, 0, 2, and 6 equals 10. Now, a lot of people I've spoken to or that I've listened to in this space have been saying how, you drop the 0 and it just equals 1, right? But I actually think 10 is a much more powerful number than 1, and I'm going to explain why. So 2025 was never set up to be an enormously big, expansive, successful year from a numerological perspective, from an astrological perspective, from a nervous system perspective. There was just so much change and flux and horror and individual horror and drama and exhaustion. I've never seen so many of our students as burnt out as they were in December of 2025 than I ever have in a couple of decades. So it has been something that I think we want to take and acknowledge that a lot of people felt really, really exhausted last year. And the beautiful thing is there's going to be a big shift energetically in 2026, but it's how you choose to ride it that's going to be really, really important. So this is where numerology can be really helpful, right? 1, the individual, right? So what can often take place is that in the realms that I work, which is in the spiritual spaces, the psychology therapy spaces, the leadership spaces, and also in the neuroscience spaces, is that it can often move from being helpful awareness of self and integration of, the shadow elements into the light, but it also can often lean into a sort of narcissistic, navel-gazing self-obsession, right? So when 1 stands alone, that there is a ripeness or a tendency to do that. But when 0, infinity, or the universal whole, or consciousness, or the divine, or whatever you want to call it, is combined with the 1, then what we have is a unification of the individual, a freedom and expression of that essence, alongside a relaxing into, a softening into consciousness or the universe as a whole. So when the 1 and the 0 come together, it is in collaboration with. And if there is one thing you take away from this video, it's that could be a reality for you. I will sit very happily, right? That if there is a year, if the only thing you worked on in 2026 is looking at individual self in collaboration with, in correlation to the whole, and then the support systems of that and the energy of that, the somatics of that. So combining an honoring of individual self, but not an overindulgence of individual self, right? Not a pity party, a narcissistic tendency of ego self to express, but you took individual self and you combined it with this incredible connection to the whole, right? So the Taoists follow this, Buddhism follows this, Vedanta follows these streams. There's a lot of beautiful practices that you can engage with. But even if it's just a day-to-day rationalization, recognition, exploration, and curiosity for what would it feel like to be in my individuality while in collaboration with the whole, that unto itself will be a really powerful year for you. So the energy of 2026 is one of power, right? So there was a big power drain on 2025. We saw this across multitudes of spaces and areas, and on continents and in politics. Power was very what's the word I'm looking for? Distilled. And what we're seeing that's going to drop away. Toxic power will drop away in 2026. And there's going to be more of this self-empowerment and unification that will take place. But the energy is going to be like this, right? So if we look to China, the fire horse, the year of the fire horse, so think fiery, galloping horse energy is going to be this year. Now, a lot of people are talking about this, but it's really important that you remember that this doesn't actually kick into mid-February, 17th. So you've got time and space to steady yourself for that empowerment to take place. And that is what I would like to invite you to do. So get very distilled and concentrated in the work that you do in setting yourself up. So you don't need 5 New Year's notebooks and 16 different new courses and like new you this and this and this. It's just you in a new year, right? It doesn't mean a whole new you. And if you choose to come at this new year with too much ferocity, intensity, and choke holding, the idea that you're going to be this different person, then you will burn out by the time the actual universal energy kicks through mid-February and then has a really big empowered span through the second half of February and March, right? So this year's going to look like this. A roller coaster. Like I really mean it. Like it's astrologically, it's up, it's down, it's hot, it's cold. It's not going to be the year for steadiness from the outside. And so what we're going to need to each do on an individual level is find the steadiness within. And so I really mean it when I say take your time in January. Really slow things down. This is the time, if you're already a meditator, that you want to double down on your practice. You want to invest deeply, right? Get very, very clear on what it means to cultivate deep contact inside with your heart and your essence, stabilizing your nervous system, getting that channel and that connection to the divine really strong so that you can be ready for what the year has to offer, right? And if you go and January becomes this crazy, hedonistic, intense month, then February will be a very different experience for you, right? So meditate. Do the other practices that support you, but do them gently and steadily is the answer. So, maybe Tai Chi, Qigong, maybe, tea ceremonies, maybe walking the beach, maybe walking in the forest, sitting by a fire, slowing things down and thinking of more traditional methodologies. I always say, my girlfriend says to me, Ella, that a fire is nature's television, and I love that. And we sit by the fire a lot in order to make sure that we're not on the television or looking at our screens. So having a look at, if you took January and even edging into mid-February as a month of cultivation, right? A gorgeous, delicious, appreciation, awe-inspiring, slowing it down and getting it clear, and what things would support you in that, knowing your nervous system, right? So there's no use looking at someone on Instagram and being like, oh my God, they do something that doesn't fit for your mind and body, right? But sure, experiment, but experiment with one thing at a time. I've already heard it. I overheard someone down the shops being like, this is my year. I'm going to sauna, I'm going to ice bath, I'm going to do tea ceremonies, I'm going to practice Kung Fu, I'm going to go to yoga. And I was like, this is a lot. And they're all new practices, right? Just think of like, and I love the enthusiasm, but let's look at also steadying ourselves and slowing down. So January energy is usually pretty like, I've got to make it work, and we're going to take a step back and align ourselves. So thinking and getting really clear on, with steadiness, what will support you. And I want you to think of this as like you're pulling the bow back on the arrow, right? You're pulling back, creating that tension, but delicious tension, right? Like enough that you're steady, right? So you've got your eyes on the prize. You're not throwing arrows off in a million different directions. You're really clear on who you're going to be in this year, less about what you're going to do. And then as the tension builds, come February, you're going to go with much more ease into this strong fire horse, empowered energy, and then ride that roller coaster throughout the year with much more grace. So there is for me, from what I'm feeling into, a really gorgeous invitation on the table, but it's going to be a renouncing of, for this time, anything that's going to distract you from that. So my recommendation is tune out world news, tune out, it's just a couple of weeks, tune out as much as you can on social media, and really tune in to what is the most important thing. So get really, really clear on what's a distraction and where does your attention go. Right? So if you want fractured attention and a fractured approach to this year, then by all means, keep doom scrolling, watching a million YouTube, the short clips that are so intoxicating. You don't have to watch the hour video, and I can just do the 20-second version. Just go, no, I'm going to be really, really clear and decisive about the way in which you hold yourself so that you can prepare. Right? Because we're just looking at the first quarter of the year in this conversation. We're just looking until the end of March, and then we have another quarter and another quarter and another quarter that are going to be turbulent, but turbulent in a way that they're going to be rich and ripe for those of us that get really, really aligned, right? It's going to be, if you really open your heart and open your mind and be very careful about what you fill it up with, then it's going to be a remarkable year. And when you're sitting in meditation, if you can connect down into that earth energy and draw it up, and also make sure it's reaching the heart, and then open up expansively to all the cosmic energies that are available, then you'll start to feel it, right? This invitation that's on the table. But also, if you go really, really hard and burn yourself out in January, that you'll feel the anxiety of that. You'll feel not an ascending power building, but you could potentially feel a really gritty, tense, chaotic sense of self and the world. So the choice is that we want to navigate into more who are we going to be as opposed to what are we going to do. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and it's just a really gentle reframe into slowing things down and thinking of that like pulling back on that arrow as opposed to just shooting them off in a million different directions. And I'm excited to be with you this year. I think it's going to be a cracker. Thank you.